other way. So on frame 15, I'm going to actually set that at frame 20. So I'll go 20, and on 15, I'm going to curl them back this way. They're going to have a delay. They're going to lag behind. Okay, so we turn the page, and they flap. So let's take a quick look at that. So the page curls up as if someone's grabbing that corner, turning the page, and then it flops down. Now, if we want to dress up, I mean, I really don't want to get too heavy into animation, but I will show you one thing that I like to do to kind of spice this up. If someone's grabbing the corner of this page, well, that's going to move before this, and then this, and then this. So we've already got the keyframes. What I'm going to do is select this first one, and then in the dope track that sits above the timeline, if that's not already open for you, all we have to do is put our cursor right here, click, and it opens it up. I'm going to grab this keyframe, and I'm just going to move it over, say, to frame 2 instead of 5. Then I'm going to move back one bone just by hitting the up arrow key, and I'm going to move this to frame 3, and then I'll move this to frame 4, and this I'll keep at 5. So now what happens is, little by little, I've offset the keyframes so that we can have the tip here animates before the rest, and it just kind of dresses it up. And I could offset the keyframes over there as well. So now I've got, this is a more detailed page turn, and again, if I want, I can add even more bones. If I want to smooth this out a little bit, one thing that I can do is move over to the Object Properties, and in the Geometry tab, I can set the subdivision order. Instead of first, I can set it to last, and it's going to smooth that out because it's going to it's going to handle the bone deformation. If we look in our subdivision order list, after the bones have manipulated the geometry, it will then subdivide the mesh, which is going to give us less points that it has to deal with when it's doing the turn. So if we set it to last, it's after all of this stuff, after morphing, bones, displacements, motion. We'll set it to last, and we get a much smoother result. Okay, so we'll just kind of scrub through that so we can take a look. Okay, so there's our page turn, and we could just duplicate this over and over again if we have multiple pages that we need to turn. Another way we can go about doing the exact same thing as far as turning a page, we could set up morph targets, and we could blend between multiple morph targets. But instead of showing you that, I think that's pretty self-explanatory. We've got two ways here that we can do without using morphs. I think we have a little more control with animation if we go and do it with either spline control or bones versus morphs. While we're here and we've got this set up, what I wanted to show is, earlier we had, this is a single-sided poly, so we have one surface. If we turn double-sided on, whatever we put on this side is going to appear on the other side. Well, what if we didn't want that? What if we wanted two separate sides, but we still wanted to use a single-sided polygon? Well, there's a way to handle that. So what I'm going to do is in frame 0, just so that we can see, I'm going to kind of destroy my animation, but that's okay. I'm going to rotate this page so that we can see the back side and the front side at the same time. Okay, and so that we can do a render, I'm going to go to the camera view, Shift C to select the camera, T for move, move up, Y for rotate, and I'm going to move over and kind of get a good shot of our page. Okay, something like this. I'll do a render, and we can see gray and gray. This looks darker just because it's casting, because of the shadow, because of the way the light's hitting. Okay, so we have this, and what I want is two separate surfaces, but it's a single-sided polygon. So I'm going to open up the surface editor, go to the surface. Now, in order for this to work, I have to work with the node editor, which is good for me because I love working in the node editor. I'm going to turn it on by clicking the check here, and let's come over here. For starters, there's a bunch of different ways I can set it up. I'm going to go ahead and start with a mixer node. Excuse me. So I'm going to plug this in and double click, and for background color, I'm going to choose red, and for foreground color I'm going to choose blue. Okay, if I were to just leave it at this and do a render, everything's blue. I need to tell it to use both colors, and that I do want this split into two different sides. To do this, I'm going to go to the Add Node, Spot Info, and I'm going to plug the polygon side into opacity. So I'm telling it I want the foreground and background to be different using the polygon side. And now we've got red. Let's take a look at this. Background color, so our background color, the back of the polygon is red, and the foreground, the front side of my polygon is blue. Okay, well that's colors. Well, what if I wanted actual pages? I can minimize this. What if I wanted actual pages so that it's a little more dressed up than red and blue? Not a problem. I have input channels here for that. So I'm going to move over to Add Node, 2D Texture, Image. I'm going to double click, and for my image I'm going to choose, this is for my background, so I'm going to choose inner cover, it's the back, and I'm going to map that in the Y, and we'll do automatic sizing just so that it fits it to the page. And let's do that in the background. Let's do a test render so we can start to see it there. And let's do the foreground. So we just have to do the same thing. I'm going to copy and paste. I'm done with this one, so I can close it up. And on this one, I'll use the same settings, except I'll change the image. I'll use the comic book cover. We're using the Tofu comic book, which is a fun one to read, I think. So I'll go ahead and close that. Plug in the foreground color. Okay, so we've got our two different images, and there we go. We've got the cover that says he's here, he's hungry, he's vegetarian. It's Tofu the Vegan Zombie, so that was kind of a fun tagline. So we've got the inside here that's a completely different image. So that allows us to keep our polygon count down. We can have a paper thin polygon. We don't have to worry about using two sets of polygons or doing some kind of compositing trick or anything like that. So as it flips over, we get two different images. So hopefully that'll give you some ideas of not only how to animate a page turning, but for texturing a page turning, that can come in handy as well. So hopefully that'll get you started. If you want, try out using morphs and try some other ways as well. These are just a couple options that should get you started.